Hello everyone and welcome. So this is a brief lecture on your term paper outline and how to format the reference list and some of the basic rules in terms of ended text sources regarding capitalization and italics. The second part will go over in more detail the specifics about how to actually write the parts of your outline. So you all have the sample outline. I sent it to your email. You'll see it here. So to do the first part, we need to go to the reference list, which is the last page of the outline. So for your term paper and also for your outline, you will have to have a reference list. So this is different from the essays that you wrote for Post Foundation 1, for example. You did not have to have a reference list. And this tells us where you got your information from, depending on the different APA citations that you use in the body of your term paper. So I want to go over just kind of some of the basics in terms of the formatting for your reference list. In general, APA requires 1 inch or 2.54 centimeter margins. So all the pages of your outline and also your term paper should be set at that. If you don't know how to do that, you can go to layout here and then margins, and then you want it to be set at normal. Your computer may say 2.54 centimeter, mine says 1 inch because that's what my settings are set at. But regardless, you want it to be, say, normal. So this is the setting here. You may have to change it on your computer. Normal is usually the default setting, so that means the computer just automatically goes to that, but you want to check it. You also want to check your spacing. So APA requires double spacing. So you can highlight whatever it is that you have typed, go to paragraph here, and then you want to check your line spacing. Make sure it's set at double. And you also want to make sure that these two numbers here are set at 0. That's very important. Sometimes these are set at other numbers and it makes the spacing inaccurate. So you want to make sure that these two numbers are set at 0. The font should be Times New Roman, so you can check that up here. Times New Roman font, and it should be font size 12. Now, in terms of your reference list, the other thing that is unique here is what is called the hanging indent. So I've highlighted it in gray, the hanging indent part. So the first line of your reference here is going to be set at 1 inch or 2.54 centimeter margins. The second, the third, in this case, the fourth line has to have this hanging indent. So it means the second, the third, and the fourth line begin 1 centimeter indented into the page. So that's what I mean by hanging indent. And if you look at the grading criteria for your outline, that's part of your grading, that you have that hanging indent there. So you want to make sure that you have it. The other thing you want to make sure you do in terms of your references is they need to be arranged alphabetically. So in this case, the first source begins with B, the second source begins with C, the third source begins with D, the fourth source begins with G, etc. So that's also a rule in terms of how to format your reference list. So those are the basic requirements in terms of formatting on the page for your reference list. So now I want to go over some of the specific rules regarding the different types of sources, how you use capital letters and italics. So remember, for your term paper, you're required to have a minimum of 4 sources, maximum of 7. They cannot be older than 2005. So 2005 onward is a requirement in terms of years for your sources. One of your sources must be a book. So this is our book here, and I'll talk in a minute about how we know that it's a book just by looking at it. One of your sources must be an academic journal. So here is one academic journal in this list, and I'll talk in a moment about how we know this is an academic journal. The other two sources that you choose, you can decide what they are, whether it's more books, whether it's more academic journals, or if you want to use news articles. So this reference list has one news article here. We know it's a news article because of the date. This is a unique way that you write dates for news articles, and we also know because it says here BBC News, so this is a major or credible news organization. So you can take articles from any major or credible news organization. In this region, Al Jazeera would be fine, or any of the Qatari newspapers. You can take articles from their online websites. So in terms of how you would write the end of text citation for this news article, so you want to start with the author's last name, which is Gallagher, and then you're going to put a comma, and then first name, initial. So when you're writing the author's names in APA in your end of text citation, you're always going to just put their first name, initial, and you capitalize it and you put a full stop afterwards. So that's the rule in terms of how to write the author's names in end of text. Remember, in text, you don't put the initial here. You just put the last name. But this, for the end of text, you need to put the actual initial. Then you're going to put the date that the article was published. So if it comes from a credible news organization, you will see the date written with the month and the day and then the year. And then APA asks you to put the year first, comma, the month, and then the day. Then you have the title of the article here. So you'll notice it is not in italics. The only letter that gets capitalized is the S on switch. So that's the rule for writing the titles of articles for news. The first letter gets capitalized and it's not written in italics. Then you have the name of the news organization, BBC News. This is capital letters and this is italics. So if you're confused about how to write things in italics in Word, usually this little box pops up and this I here stands for italics. So if I click on it, it's no longer in italics anymore. But of course we want it in italics because that is the rule. So that's how we put it in italics. Then you have the words retrieved from. So this tells us where you got this article from, and then you have the website. So we should be able to copy this website, go to Google, paste it, and then you have the article here that we got our information from. So remember, for your term paper, we're going to check all your sources. We're going to make sure that they're real, that they're accurate. So this is why it's important that these things are accurate in your reference lists, like websites and things like that. So that's how you write the end of text citation for a news article in your reference list. So I want to go now to book. So again, this is our book. This book was written by two different authors here. So we have Villegas, comma, A, full stop, and Tenta, comma, A, full stop. Again, last name or family name, and then first name, initial. For books, you just put the year that it was published. And then you have the title of the actual book, which is written in italics. The first letter gets capitalized and any proper nouns get capitalized. So here we have Mediterranean. So that's a proper noun, so that's why it's capitalized. So that's the rule for writing titles of books in APA for end of text. Italics, first letter gets capitalized, any proper nouns get capitalized. Then you have the publishing company. So if you open the title page of any book, it should tell you the company that published the book. In this case, it's called Academic Press. Should also tell you the major city that this publishing company is located in. So in this case, it's London. So you put the city and then you put colon and then you put academic press. And that is the citation for your book. The next is that I want to go over are your academic journals. So here's one sample here. So this academic journal has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 authors. We know that because of the last name, family name, and then the first name initial. Then you have the year that it was published, 2017. And then you have the title of the actual article that's inside the journal. So remember when we use this term academic journal, we're just referring to a collection of research articles or other types of academic writing articles. So you want to start with the title of the actual article. First letter gets capitalized. There's no italics. If there's a colon in the title, so you see that here, this is a colon, the word afterwards always gets a capital letter. So that's why it's capital I here. There's no proper noun, so that's why none of the other words are capitalized. Then you have the title of the academic journal. This gets capital letters, similar to the news organization. The BBC News gets capital letters and italics, except for the word of here because it's preposition. So we wouldn't capitalize prepositions in this case. And then you have comma, and then you have these numbers. So these numbers are unique for academic journals. The 58 refers to the volume number of the academic journal, and then the number in the parentheses, the 1, refers to the issue number. So these are the different times that the journal is actually published. And then the second set of numbers here, this refers to the page numbers of the article. So the article started on page 32 and then it ended on page 42. So these numbers are required for the end of text citation for APA, and it has to look like this. Then we have what is called DOI. So this is like a digital reference number. So all academic journals definitely published after 2005 should have a DOI. So this is where we can find the journal online. So you want to make sure that you have that in your reference list as well. So those are the basic rules for how to format your academic journals. You may decide, so this, for example, this last source is an article from a website. There's no authors. The authors is the World Health Organization. So you can use articles from websites as long as the website comes from a credible organization. So we have World Health Organization, and then we also have the CDC up here. So that would be okay to do that. But I would mainly only have one of these, and I would use it mostly for background information in your introduction. We're going to talk next week about how to write your introductions. So if you're going to use articles from websites, that just kind of goes over basic information about your topic or facts, then use that as background information in your introduction. But you have World Health Organization here because they are the authors. You have the year, you have the title of the article. It's in italics, capital letter for the first word, and then retrieved from, and then you have the website. And again, if we go to Google, and this is the article. It's just basic facts about cardiovascular disease. So again, if you use something like this, it should be just for background information in your introduction, or maybe in one of your body paragraphs. But there should be another piece of evidence in there as well. But we'll talk more about that when we talk about your body paragraphs. So to conclude, for your term paper, and your outline, you must have a minimum of 4 sources. One has to be a book. It can be the physical book, or it can be an ebook. So if it were an ebook, we would just put the website that you got it from here, not the publishing company and the city. Everything else would be the same. You must have one academic journal in your source list. And then the other